After being born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and spending a year in Niger in Western Africa as a toddler, Salif Mahamane grew up in Waco, Texas. He earned his bachelor's degree in psychology from Baylor University in Waco, where he began his research career by investigating the relationship between natural scenery and feelings of humility. Then he went to New Mexico Highlands University in Las Vegas, New Mexico, where he earned a master's degree in psychology and first experienced everything that vast public lands have to offer. From New Mexico, Salif moved to Logan, Utah to earn his PhD from Utah State University, where he has studied how natural environments influenced human cognitive performance, or how place influences your thought. Salif now comes to Western from Utah. He's been here for a year, a new assistant professor of psychology, eager to continue exploring the relationship between nature and human cognition in the Gunnison Valley and surrounding areas, the perfect place for such an endeavor. Please join me in welcoming Professor Salif Mahamane.
All right. Here comes a brand new flavor in your ear. Time for new flavor in your ear. I'm kicking new flavor in your ear. A brand new flavor in your ear. So I'd like to take this chance to thank everybody right now for just being a part of my dream. I never made it as a rapper, so I've always wanted to just like, I've always wanted to rap in front of people, in front of an audience. And so now you're welcome. You got to be a part of my dream. So, so I am like Dr. Ebbett said, I am from Waco, Texas. I grew up in Waco, and that means a lot to me. Waco has a lot of mixed reputations, I should say, and we'll get to that. But I'm going to talk to you, like he said, about connecting to a place, what it is to be attached to a place, and kind of like, I don't know, how that process unfolds as you're all in this new place. I'm relatively new to this place, so a year ago, I was kind of at the same, I was neck and neck with the freshmen. I was like, we'd been here about the same amount of time. I maybe moved here 2 or 3 weeks before them, and I was kind of exploring, finding all of that stuff about Gunnison out, and kind of getting my sense of this community at the same time that they were. Now I've been here a year, so this talk is a little bit modified, where I'm going to talk about how about what that year's been like, and some of the things that I've experienced, and how I've already begun my connection and attachment to the Gunnison Valley through those experiences that I'm going to share with you. And so first, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. One, this is my favorite one, probably might be your favorite of the night too. We'll see. So when we were moving from New Mexico, like Dr. Ebbett said, I did my master's in New Mexico before I got accepted to a PhD program at Utah State in Logan, Utah, up in northern Utah. And so we were getting ready to move. My wife is a mental health therapist, and this is a job that requires a license. You have to get licensed. Each state has a licensing board, so every time you move to a different state, you have to get a new license, and that's a huge, you have to take the tests that state wants you to have. You have to do all this paperwork. You have to do all these things to get that in order. And so she was on the phone with the office in Utah and trying to get more information, do I have the right paperwork? When is the deadline? What do I have to do? You need copies of this and this and this and all that. And as she was talking to this lady on the phone, she kept on, her face kind of started getting more and more first annoyed and then kind of upset and then pissed off. And I could tell something wasn't going right in the way that she kept responding. And finally, when she hung up the phone, she looked at it and she was like, "Bitch, I'm from Philly. I'll monkey stomp your ass." And I was like, damn. I was like, what happened? And I asked her, I was like, what happened? And she was like, she just threw the phone down and walked off. And so me, though, ever the psychologist, I was thinking to myself, I was like, that's not the first time I've heard somebody invoke where they're from when they got really pissed off. I know there's been plenty of times when I've gotten really excited or energetic or angry. I'm like, I'm from Waco, Texas. And there's something about where you're from, because people don't just it's not just oh, what you had for dinner last night. You never hear people be like, hey, homie, I just had spaghetti and meatballs. You better keep my name out your mouth. People don't do that. We don't get attached to our food in that way. Though I'm about to, by the end of this, I'm going to contradict myself and talk about what I had for dinner last night that I am attached to. But, but you don't see that with other things like what you have for dinner or other things like that. But there's something about where you're from and how that develops, how you develop an attachment to a place that we are going to talk about. And so, given that story, I want to hear a little bit. Where are y'all from? Philadelphia. That's where my wife's from. That's Detroit? All right, let's see some hands. Let's see some hands. Who wants to share? Oh, we don't have a mic. Never mind. You. Where are you from? Yeah, you. You're from where? San Diego. San Diego. What's it mean to be from San Diego? When you think of San Diego, what do you think of? Hot. Do what? What? Where's some? Huh? You don't know? Sometimes you don't know. Yep. Gatesville, Texas. Okay, right near Waco. All right, we got some Syntex folks in the house. What's it mean to be from Gatesville? Do you want to share with people, like, what's it mean to be from Central Texas? Everybody be quiet so you can hear them. Texas? Yeah, Central Texas. Central Texas? Football is everything, really. Football is everything, so I can definitely vouch for that. Have you ever heard the expression Cuddy before? Yeah, you've heard the expression Cuddy before. That's a local term of endearment we use, like, hey, what's up, Cuddy? I love that term. It makes me feel like I'm instantly home. When I go to places around the world, if I meet someone from Waco, we can instantly share that, so we call that shared culture. And it's gender neutral. There's not a presumed gender like dude or something else like that. So it's kind of cool. So if y'all see me in the hallways, you're welcome to say, hey, what's up, Cuddy? And I'll probably really enjoy that. What's some other places you guys are from? Yeah. You're from Gunnison. What's it mean to be from here? No booing where people are from unless y'all trying to start fights. So, hey, shh. Okay, where are you? Share a little bit about that. Like, what's that like? What does it mean? Like, what do you think of when you're traveling and you think of home? Adventure? So this place kind of comes with a sense of adventure to it. I think a lot of people come here for that, actually. That's cool. What are some other places? Yeah. Denver. What's it mean to be from Denver? We have some other Front Range people in the house. What do you think of when you think of being from Denver? All right, everybody, let's keep it down so we can hear each other. High spirits. High spirits, okay. There's only one way to take that. But wait, like spirits are alcohol though, right? No. Oh, spirits. Okay. All right. So you can see that people are often really eager to talk about where they're from. They have lots of stories, lots of feelings, associations. And then there's also good and bad to where you're from. So what are some things that you guys have heard about Waco? I can't, what? Cult? Oh, cults, yeah. The Branch Davidians. Okay, so we've got cults. We had that explosion a few years ago, the biker shootout. Is anyone in here aware that it's the birthplace of Dr. Pepper? Okay, good. There's a little bit of positive things if you have a positive view of soda. And so often even like negative things will kind of attach you to a place. For example, just because they're part of that identity. So there's a local rapper from Waco, and he used the instrumental from Empire State of Mind, and he made up a Waco song, and so it goes like, whatever they put in our water, it makes us go harder down in Waco. And so, no, don't, I didn't come up with that. So, what's actually in our water is cow shit. And so, so upstream from Waco are just enormous dairy farms that just run off into the Bosque River, which is where we get our water from. And when you get your water out of the Waco, like tap water, it definitely tastes in ways that water doesn't usually taste. So they claim it's been cleaned, but it might still have a little bit of an after flavor. But that song and that story, knowing that that's what it is, still like had a connection for me where before I gave my TEDx talk a few years ago, and my mom was flying out to Utah to watch it live, I said, Mom, you got to bring me some Waco water. I want you to take the Brita filter off of your faucet, and I need that real Waco water so I can go harder when I give this talk. So that song kind of like inspired me in that way. And so often negative things, there's a whole picture of kind of like a place and what it involves, and we're going to talk about that process. So I'm going to introduce what's called the tripartite model, tripartite, so 3 parts. And that has to do with person, process, and place. And this is the model of place attachment. So the way that a person becomes attached to a place has to do with, 1, who they are. I'm sorry you can't really see these small labels really well, but so the person will come from a certain culture or a certain group. They'll have certain religious and historical things about them and what groups they come from, what cultures they're members of. Then the person is also an individual. They have their own experiences, realizations, life milestones that they've experienced in a place. And those lend to how they interact with that place. And then there's the place itself. So that place has a social nature as well as a physical nature. So Gunnison, for example, there are things about it, the social nature of it being a small community, relatively isolated. We are considered a frontier community, not just a rural community, but we are so out here that we're still referred to as a frontier community. And then the process. What does that person go through in that place? And that could be anything from like knowledge and memories about the place, and so that builds their familiarity. Their affect, in psychology, we refer to your emotions and your feelings as affect, and so how you feel in that place emotionally and your connection to it. So when I think of Waco, immediately I think of like being in the high school drum line, the things I did with my friends, running around different places and doing all this stuff, and they all have a very cultural significance to me. And the social aspect of that process, I often think about being raised by that entire community. There are so many people that had influences on me that if it were up to my parents, would have never been able to have influences on me. But they did. And because I was raised by that entire place of all my teachers, friends' parents, my friends themselves, and et cetera, et cetera. And so the process you go through in a place is really how the person and the place itself become attached. Could I get a little bit dimmer lights on the screen, if that's possible? So we can see things a little better. Maybe. So in this first image here, we have the Waco Suspension Bridge. And it is basically, it's this landmark in Waco. But even that image is kind of like, reminds me of like seeing people jump off the bridge into the water for fun. Every year, the Earth Day celebration is kind of right in the trees at the front end of this bridge, and tables line out. There's like food everywhere. There's live music and things like that. And since I was a little kid, my mom would bring me to Earth Day kind of at the beginning of that bridge there. Then I moved to Las Vegas, New Mexico, which Dr. Ebbett mentioned. That's downtown Las Vegas, kind of from the plaza looking out. And it's a very cute little mountain town, cute in some ways, kind of can be sketchy in others. But Las Vegas was the first place where I lived close to public land, and I got to realize some of my passions with respect to fishing, backpacking, started to try to hunt a little bit, but had no idea what I was doing, and things like that. So I really got introduced to public land, and I knew after I moved to New Mexico that I would never be able to live somewhere that didn't have public land again, and especially in the West. I kind of realized I belong in the West almost no matter what, after living in that place and the people I met there and the common interests that we discovered and shared. Then I moved to Logan, Utah, still in the West, a little bit bigger of a town though, about 50, 60,000 people compared to 18,000 people in Las Vegas. And Utah was mainly about my career and my PhD. And there was a lot of public land, there was a lot of opportunity for the things I liked to do. But it was more about professional development. I became kind of who I am professionally through my experiences and development in that PhD program and being surrounded by other graduate students who were also kind of engaged in that process. And we helped and supported each other. We recreated outdoors and had fun, but it was a little bit more about kind of beginning to think of our futures in that way. And then finally I arrived here. That last picture is obviously the Palisades. And so that's I arrived in Gunnison, and this is kind of where the next chapter is beginning. So one thing is when we were leaving Utah, my wife was kind of like, and I was starting to look for jobs in different places. I was going to be wrapping up my PhD and ready to move on. She was kind of like, well, I need to live in a place that's, one, the desert, but two, has a lot of water. I don't want a lot of people, but I want good resources like arts and healthcare and all that kind of stuff. I want good schools for our kid, but again, I'd prefer the place be in the middle of nowhere. So this is kind of a tall order. I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to find that anywhere. And so then we were driving. It was early March in 2017, so this was like one of the biggest winters Gunnison's had in the last like 3 decades. And it was early March. We're driving past Blue Mesa, and as soon as we get kind of up upon Blue Mesa, and everything's just like white and iced over, and the winter is like so heavy that year. There were very few cars out, and it was so desolate. And my wife was like, "Oh my God, this place is desolate. I think we have to move here." And it was kind of like, and that was something that we both find, and that's part of that person part of the tripartite model. Who the people are and what their interests are and what they're looking for in a place is really important. And so when you grow up in a place, maybe you're born there, you don't always have choices about where you'll attach. But when you're looking for a place, and if you have the resources to be looking between different places or whatever, you can kind of start thinking like, what's the type of place I'd like to live? And for us, that meant kind of desolate, because we like that. So I'm going to take you through kind of my journey since I've been here in Gunnison about how I've attached to this place. So we're going to start with the person. That's me. It's kind of hard to see. So you got to think about who is attached. What is the culture? I come from, thank you, I appreciate that. I come from a Texas town. Texas brags about being the largest state in the 48, and they try not to ever let people mention Alaska. But there's hardly any public land there. If you enjoy outdoor recreation, if you just want to find a place where you can get away from other people to do what you please and kind of relax, it's really hard to do in Texas unless you're a landowner, which introduces economic barriers and privilege and things like that. And so I loved that kind of stuff, but I didn't really have much of an outlet for it. I was raised by an environmental studies professor, and so I was kind of accultured with this appreciation for the outdoors, but I didn't have this enormous expanse that you have in these western states to really explore that. So I was kind of looking for that when I left Waco. My history, I'll never not be like a Waco person. I love Southern rap. I love all these things that come out of Waco in the South, and I don't care where you take me, I'm always going to be like that. So that's kind of my history and my culture. And then as experiences go, I was looking for certain types of experiences, like I said, more outdoor recreation and more kind of wilderness, and I've kind of talked enough about that. And then life milestones. I'm going to kind of take you through some of the life milestones I've experienced just in the year that I've been here. So just in 1 year, I've kind of experienced a lot of firsts. And then personal growth as well. So this is the place. This is just taken from the water towers or the antenna tower up on the hill behind campus. That's Gunnison. You probably recognize that. And so you kind of capture both the social and physical aspects of Gunnison in this one image. You have this small town nestled in a valley, and everything all the thoughts and associations that conjures up. When you think about that, at the same time, you can also see that physical place, and you can see what's in the background. You can see what's surrounding this community and that physical nature of the place as well. So when we talk about process, I'll talk about my emotions I've experienced in different situations here, knowledge and memory. So if you think about knowledge about the place, you guys got that last week. And I'm sorry that you're pretty much just getting the same talk again, because Dwayne and I are basically the same person. But no. So you have knowledge and memories that contribute to the process. That's your familiarity you develop of a place. And then behavior, you can also often see people's attachment to a place through their behavior. They talk about it all the time, or they try to maintain proximity. They don't want to move, or they revisit it. They spend their vacations there over and over again because they've fallen in love with a certain place. Cool. So Gunnison is kind of a place of firsts. So one big way that Gunnison has really worked for me and connected me is that, like Dr. Ebbett said, I study environmental psychology, not just about place attachment, but how natural versus urban environments affect human cognition, different demographics that have different associations with different outdoor environments and things like that. And I kind of try to understand what is the human relationship psychologically with the natural world. And so this is kind of a perfect place to do that. There's tons of public land to do research, to engage students in outdoor research and things like that. So it really worked for me. This image is me at the top of Mount Crested Butte giving a lecture about attention restoration, or how attention helps you how outdoor environments help you pay attention better at the top of this peak where you can see in 360 degrees, miles each direction. And so this is a class of MEM students, our master's program in environmental management. And this was actually a week or two before I even started the actual semester last fall. So this was probably one of the first lectures I gave for Western, and I got to do it at the top of a mountain, so that was pretty cool. Here's the MEM cohort from this year. I've kind of found a niche for my particular area of expertise in Gunnison and at Western. Europe is really studying environmental psychology and putting a lot of money and effort and energy toward it, but America's not really doing that in terms of grant funding and things like that, and universities just being interested in kind of bringing in like a big focus on environmental psychology. But here, given the culture of the university, the culture of the valley, I've been able to really find an outlet for a professional outlet as well. On that note, here's my environmental psychology class. You can't really see them that well again, but in the front there is Nigel. I don't know if any guys know him from football, but Nigel Vaughns, he probably wouldn't like me telling you this, but we lost him on 2 field trips this year. I teach this class in the summer, and one actually on this bike trip, my class takes a bike trip around the valley, around town, and we visit all the places in Gunnison that my students have said and explained that they're attached to based on that 3-part type model. So as we're riding around town, we were supposed to take a left turn and go to the library because we had one student who feels a strong attachment to the public library, and Nigel just like total gumption just kept going straight, and we just lost him. It was about 20 minutes before he found his way back to us, and we're all kind of like, should we go in the library yet? Like, are we waiting for Nigel? Does he want to see the library? I don't know, dude. Do you think he wants to see the library? And just like trying to figure out like what we should do. Finally, we got a tour of the library, and on our way out, Nigel caught up to us, actually right at the corner where he disappeared. So that was nice. And then on the second trip, we went rafting, and he actually fell out of the boat real quick, but the guide just like basically grabbed him like that and pulled him back in the boat. That was pretty cool. So if you see Nigel, give him a hard time. Be like, you need to stop getting lost on field trips. Like, how old are you, dude? So another experience I've had here, this was in a dark location at the movie theater, so it's kind of hard to see. But I never got really involved in cultural groups and cultural clubs in college and during my graduate school career and all that stuff. And so one thing that I really wanted to get involved in was different like mentoring student clubs and the Multicultural Center here. And so I'm actually the advisor of the Black Student Alliance as well. And we all went to go see Black Panther together. And that kind of introduced me to a new way of mentoring and like a mentorship opportunity that I hadn't had before. And you don't have to be Black to be in the Black Student Alliance or to come check it out. We have officers and members of all races, just like all the clubs in the MCC. But you should come check that out maybe. We'll do fun stuff like go to movies. So another big part of me is that I like to fish and hunt. I mentioned that before. This is the first fish I ever caught on a fly rod, and it was right across the street from Garlic Mike's. It was a salmon during the salmon run last year, and one of the other adjunct faculty in the psych department last year is also a fishing guide. And so he took my buddy Anders, who was checking my class in earlier outside. My fish is actually biting Anders' head off right there. And so he took us out and kind of showed us like what that's all about, and that allowed me to get into it. This is one of my favorite fly fishing areas that never sink. Again, these photos are kind of dark, but this was like a place where I just kind of sat down there as I walked up, and I was like, this place is amazing. And right after that, a huge storm rolled in. There was lightning everywhere. I was getting like, my line was getting blown everywhere. I couldn't really fish. I got frustrated, but that's also kind of part of that experience. Now it's a story that I have. Here's the first fish I caught on my own fly rod, picking my own flies, and I felt like a little proud 5-year-old. I did it. And I got like this nice little brown trout out of Neversink. Here's this amazing fishing place that I won't tell you where it is. Anders isn't going to tell you where it is. That's him in that corner. Hopefully none of you recognize it. It's like 5 hours away, nowhere near Gunnison. Don't try. Just leave it alone. No, I'm kidding. It's this beautiful place that we found, and the fish were biting so well that Anders actually had 2 fish in his net at once because he dropped the line in the water after he took it out of one fish's mouth, and another fish just like jumped out grabbing it. And so there's his 2 fish in the net. So I've had these I grew up fishing in Texas, but always for bass and catfish, like with like chicken livers that you buy at the grocery store, and it's all bloody, and then I'd come home like at 2 a.m. with my dad, and I'd have like blood all over my shirt, and my mom would like, "What happened?" I was like, "It's just chicken liver." And but I grew up fishing, but I never tried fly fishing before. And so now when I think, as I fly fish the rest of my life, I'll think about Gunnison as the place where I learned to do that, and that provided me the opportunity. So again, that person, place, and process interaction. So switching roles from fisherman, I'm also a dad. This is my kid. If you ever drive by 14th in Virginia, you'll see this empty lot with a lot of gravel and grass, and it looks like a really ugly place in the middle of town. However, it's a really special place for me because this is where my kid first rode his bike successfully, and I took him there, and he was riding his bike around, and that I think that actually might be a picture from that day. And actually, my wife was on, they were walking the Van Tuyl Trail, her and Anders' wife, Emily. You probably know her if you have Emily Lowley for art. And they were walking the trail, and I just texted my wife as I was driving over to this parking lot because he'd done it a little bit in our driveway. I was like, "Come to Virginia and 14th." And that was all I texted her. And Emily was like, "What's going on? Is there an emergency? Are we getting into something right now? What's happening?" And then they pull up, and there's my kid riding his bike. So that parking lot is actually just a random place, but really special for me, again, because of the process that unfolded there. Here's my kid fixated on a Western basketball game, sitting on the kitchen counter. And I grew up loving basketball. I played a little bit in middle school and stuff like that, but I hadn't really thought about it for a while. And then as we were looking for things to do, it's winter, we went to one basketball game, and he was hooked. And so this being also the venue where I've been reintroduced to basketball. My son is seeing it for the first time. He went to Western's camp this summer, and all the basketball players were like, "Hey, that kid can shoot," and stuff, and he was so proud. And so that's kind of another way that, as a father, my history and liking basketball, and then him just kind of finding it and falling in love with it here, that attaches me to this place as the place that happened for him. And then here's us again. Sorry, you can't really see it that well, but we're on a rabbit hunt. I've got my bow. There's my kid. And we were, over Thanksgiving break last year, we were on a rabbit hunt up north of Blue Mesa in those hills. He did a great job of hiking up the hills. Didn't see any rabbits, didn't kill anything, but we had a really great time. And this place, again, allows public land and things like that to do that. While we're on the topic of hunting, and I wish you could see it because this buck rack is huge, and that is Hearst Hall in the background. As I was leaving work one night, there was just this giant buck standing right next to the road. And that also I was hurting inside because I was like, "Oh, I wish hunting on campus was legal." with a bow. So yeah, and so Gunnison really allows for that. Again, this is a picture of the West Elks, and what that affords is in all types of recreation. And for me, this is kind of an enormous stomping grounds for the things I like to do, like hunting. So this takes our story up to this past weekend. You might recognize Dr. Bernhardt here from Politics and Government, and this photograph was taken by Dr. Sellen from Environment and Sustainability. We went grouse hunting on Sunday, and I was able to actually kill that grouse in my hand. That's also kind of hard to see. This is pretty gangsta shit right here. You're out in the woods, and you just roll up on some birds, and you're like, "Hey, look, I'm sorry, but your survival goals are just not consistent with my dinner goals right now." And pop, pop, and then it's this is how it goes. And so here's my grouse. It's my first actual hunting kill ever. Thank you very much. And we had it last night for dinner. This is what it looked like after that. This was before it went in the oven, but also before I put like butter and garlic and rosemary and lemon and some pepper and salt, some seasonings, and then it came out. And then finally what I had for dinner last night. So this whole story of kind of like all these things about my interest and my past and my future goals has all culminated even down to like what I had for dinner last night, which was that grouse. This is a specimen known as the wild kitchen grouse. You can usually find it hanging out near piles of peas and spaghetti squash, as well as a nice fresh salad. And so I just wanted to take you through that to kind of explain, and you can see in all these examples where who I am as a person interacted with what Gunnison is as a place to produce my attachment through the process. So that interaction between my nature as a person and Gunnison's nature as a place interacted in that process of me learning more about it, learning the area, exploring new trails, canyons, things like that, exploring town, just wandering into different businesses, restaurants, bars, just to know, like, what is this place? Someone told me don't ever go to that saloon bar on, like, Main Street, and so, like, I still haven't, but, like, that just makes me want to. I'm like, what's going on in the saloon bar? So I might check that out. But I'm kind of in that stage of developing my knowledge and my familiarity. And then as these processes unfold, like going hunting with my son or him learning to ride a bike at a certain parking lot, that's the affect part, where those are really emotional experiences for me. And then finally, my behavior is like, I better do a good job here and get tenure so I can stay here and try to maintain some proximity to this place. And so that's kind of that process. And what I want to leave you with, and I'm saying that one time, I'm not going to say but and then keep going. What I'm going to leave you with is to be prepared. You're starting your life here. You're going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years. And as you have experiences here, some of them are going to be unexpected. Some of them are going to be very negative, and you're going to really not enjoy them. Some of them are going to be some of the best experiences of your life. And as you go through those things, keep in the back of your mind that this is that process unfolding for you. This is that process between who you are, what Gunnison is, and how you come to feel about it 4 years down the line or whenever you graduate. So I just kind of want to leave you with that, and like be prepared for your life to literally happen in this place. Life happens in a context. It happens in a setting. It never happens like not in some place. And as it happens, that process connects you to that place and attaches you to that place. Whether you hate Gunnison as a town, but you love the friends you have here, or whether you love Gunnison as a town and all that comes with it. So I want to leave you with that. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm sorry to have postponed all your hot jokes tonight. But go ahead and have fun.